So you've gone out, you've bought the DJI Avata, and you've been flying it with a motion controller for the last few days, few weeks, or however long, and you want that little bit more control. You've heard people talking about manual mode, you've seen people using one of these, and you've gone out and bought one. But you've gone out, bought it, and you have no idea where to start. Well, you've come to the right place. Today I want to show you how to get this set up and how to start flying in manual mode. Give you a little bit of a crash course, so to speak. And hopefully after there'll be less crashing and more flying. Fingers crossed. So you've just got your DJI FPV Controller version 2 out of the box, and this is what it'll look like. This is when the sticks are perfectly in the center, but when you're flying FPV, you don't want that. You actually want your throttle stick, which is this one over here, to be completely floppy. You should be able to put it in any position and it just stay there. To do that, we are gonna have to make a modification to the FPV controller. It's completely fine to do. You're not gonna like void the warranty. You're actually meant to do this. So what you want to do is flip over the controller. You want to take off this side down here. So grab a knife or whatever you want to prise it open. Be aware that when you pull it back, it only comes this far. Don't pull it any further because you will break it. When you look at it, you'll see two holes. You'll see F1 and F2. Start off with F2, tighten that up with an Allen wrench, and it'll get to the point where this stick starts to become floppy, but it will still want to stay in the middle. Then you want to tighten up the F1 hole to the point where this stick will stay either at the top or the bottom without wanting to go back to the middle. Once that's done, you can close all that back up, and that is pretty much good to go. The only other thing you may need to do to your DJI FPV Controller version 2 is update the firmware to version 2 and also bind it to your DJI Avata, whatever drone you're going to be using it with. I've done a whole in-depth video about that, so I'll leave the link just up here if you want to watch it, and then come back to this video if you need to. The next step is to get everything turned on, and you need to change a few settings on your goggles to sort your drone out. Unfortunately, I can't really show you. I've been literally been sat for like the last half hour trying to record the menu from these onto my phone or something, and I just can't get it to work. So I'm really sorry. You're just gonna have to follow my instructions. Sorry. To get into the menu, you want to use these buttons on the right hand side of the goggles. You've got the back button, which is the one in the middle. You've got record, which we're not going to be using. And you've also got a 4-way toggle switch, and you can press it down to select anything. So the first thing you want to do is press that to get into the menu. All you want to do is go down to the very bottom where it says settings and then go over to control. Then you want to select remote controller and then go down to custom mode. You want to change that from sport mode over to manual mode. It will ask you whether you're sure you want to do this. Just say yes, don't worry about it. We'll practice before we actually get the drone in the air. Then go up to stick mode and make sure it's in mode 2. It should be, and that means that the throttle is on the right hand side with the yaw, and then you got the pitch and roll on the right hand side. Very similar to how you would fly like a Mavic 3 or something like that. It's pretty much the exact same controls. And the final thing you want to do is go over to calibration and just make sure that this is all calibrated so the endpoints is as far as you can go through the stick. It will talk you through all of that. Just make sure you do it just to be on the safe side. It should be okay, but you never know. At this point, this is pretty much set up, ready to go for full acro manual mode. But if I'm honest, I wouldn't go out and do it straight away on your front garden or something, because you'll probably hit a car and probably cause some damage to this as well. Obviously, this is so much more important than your car. So we're gonna get some practice in first. To do that, we're gonna need a simulator. Now, DJI do have their own simulator, which you can download from the App Store. It's called DJI Virtual Flight. It's okay, I used it once or twice. You have to plug your phone into the goggles using like whatever cable you need to go through to USB-C. So I just used the one which came with my iPhone. But for some reason, the goggles seem to freeze a lot and it just got really, really buggy. So maybe it'll work for you. It's worth a shot, especially if it's free. But if that doesn't work for you and you want something a little bit better, I've got you covered, don't worry. The two other options, if you don't want to do that, is if you have a laptop or a computer which can run a simulator, you can either download Liftoff, which you can get from Steam, or you can also download VelociDrone. Both of them cost around about £15, and I wouldn't personally say one is better than the other. I've used VelociDrone for the last 5 years when I first started flying FPV, but I've been using Liftoff over the last week, and I'm pleasantly surprised by it. Yes, it is £15. Some people may be like, oh, I don't really want to spend £15, but trust me, you need to learn how to fly manual mode before you actually get the drone and try it, because you could cause a lot more damage than just £15 with one of these things. So yeah, just spend the £15, get a few hours in, and you should be okay. I'll leave the links to all of it down in the description box below if you want to pick any of that up. So what I'm going to do is give you a quick crash course. Hopefully at the end of it, there'll be less crashing and more of you guys flying, but it's super quick, just something to be able to get you in the air and see how you get on. First up, you're going to need a cable to connect this through to your laptop or your computer. So I'm using USB-C to USB-A and an adapter from Apple. And once you've got the software up and running, you've calibrated everything from this to make sure the input from this is controlling the drone correctly on screen. You are ready to start your first flight as a manual drone FPV pilot, I guess. Now, once you're in the simulator, it will look like this, which looks like the camera is actually tilting up. And in an FPV drone, it actually is. When you fly the Avata with the motion controller, it always stays forward. And depending on where you point the motion controller, it will tilt up or down for you on the gimbal. Now, with an FPV drone, the camera is always tilted up and it's locked off in that position and it doesn't move. The reason for it is when you want your drone to actually go forwards, your drone tilts forwards to give it some thrust out the back. When you're doing that, the camera obviously tilts down, so it becomes more level than what it actually is. The second thing you need to know is that if you've ever flown something like a Mavic before, the principles of flying a Mavic does not come even close to flying an FPV drone. Normally with a Mavic, if you want to go forward, you will push the right stick forward. But if I do that and keep it held forward, you'll see that it just dives straight forward and it will actually keep turning. If I do that, it just goes forever. And it's the same with any of the other controls. What you want to do is, if you want to go forward, you want to gate to the angle you want to go forward and then almost let go of the stick. And I can let go of the sticks now, you'll see that it's just going forward and it's going down. So you want to give it a little bit more thrust. And pretty much whatever controller you put into the sticks, you need to do something else to help balance it out. Now, when you're turning on an FPV drone, obviously your drone is tilting forwards. So normally on something like a Mavic, you'd use the yaw stick, which is on the left-hand side, to be able to turn it left or right. Now, if you're doing that on an FPV drone, you can turn it left or right, but if you're flying forwards like this and then you use the yaw stick, you will actually just rotate the drone and it will still continue to go forwards. It will just look like the camera is actually going sideways. So then you actually need to add a little bit of rolling to balance that out. Like I said, every stick action that you put into the sticks, you need to do something else to help balance it out, whether that comes to throttle, tilt, roll, or yaw. So for that, if you're wanting to go forward and then you're wanting to turn, you add the yaw in, but then you also need to add a little bit of roll. And you see, I'm only making really, really small movements on my sticks. I'm not doing anything major. So once again, if I want to turn left, I'm wanting to use both the yaw and the roll and moving on both left at the same time. The amount differs depending on what angle your camera is at, but over time you'll get used to the muscle memory. Same with going right, I'm gonna move both sticks to the right and then bring them back to center like that and balance it out. And that's pretty much it for me today. Thank you very much for joining me. Hope that's really helped you out. I've had a lot of questions about the DJI Avata and whether I could actually do a lesson on how to fly FPV and how I've picked it up so quickly. It's purely because I've done it for so long and it's like getting back on the bike once you buy another FPV drone. But seriously, practice. If you have any questions, drop me a message either on Instagram or down in the comment section below. Happy to help you out. If you want to see more content about the DJI Avata or anything to do with photo and video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you do, I'll see you right there. Thank you very much for joining me. Take care and happy flying. Don't smash it in your first attempt. See ya.